You don't need a framework. You need a painting, not a frame. Klaus Kinski. So many people ask me, Brendan, what's your secret formula to organizing a talk? And the truth is, there isn't one. But I will share in this week's episode of MasterTalk how to structure a talk in a way that makes people go, wow. So let's get into it. Number 1, understanding your outcomes. So many people try and organize a talk, try and structure everything together, but they don't even bother asking themselves the simple question of, what am I trying to achieve here? What am I trying to present in this talk? What is the goal here? And by focusing on that outcome, it's going to be much easier for you to build a talk around it. That's why I'm always a big fan of what's your key outcome and what's your key idea? What are you trying to achieve here? And what is the best way for people to get to that idea? Simple. So how do you do this? The way you do this is by talking to the people you want to make a difference for. So for me, with MasterTalk, the main reason I started it was for people who couldn't afford me. So think about the 14-year-old girl in Utah, which is in the United States, or some girl in India, some girl in any other country in the world. If they can't afford communication knowledge, they should still be able to access it. So it's through that lens that I'm always speaking in my keynotes, in my camera presentations for YouTube, and any type of setting I'm on, I'm always focused on that core demographic. So for you to figure out who that person is and what the key outcome is from that individual, you won't be able to get very specific about who you're doing all of this for. That's why I recommend all of you, and I'm not joking, have dinner with the people you want to serve. Understand who they are, what their pain points are, what are their struggles, and figure out through those struggles, what is the one thing that you can solve for that person? Because if that one person needs it, it means 10,000, 100,000, or even 1 million people like that individual have the same exact problem. So master your key outcome, and you might just master your talk. Number 2, the brain dump. So now that you've figured out your key outcome and your key idea, now the question is, how do we build out our content and our slides? And the quick answer is, there is no framework. The easy answer is actually to do the hard thing, which is getting a bunch of slides together, much like an artist. An artist doesn't just write out a beautiful essay. An artist doesn't just write out a song that changes millions of lives. No, they spend a long time figuring it out. It's a process that's very difficult, right? It's a process that's long. That's why I encourage you to get your coffee, get your tea, because what we're about to do is exactly the right thing to do. Get a bunch of slides together, write out different ideas for each of those slides, and ask yourself a couple of questions. Question number 1, what are the types of stories that our audience wants to hear? That the audience that we focus so much on in step number 1, what do they care the most about? So for me, it was my personal story around communication and how I struggled with it my whole life. The reason that resonates with people is because they don't put me on a pedestal. They look at me and they go, well, if Brendan could do it, why can't I? And that's my key outcome, convincing my audience that they can master communication and public speaking. So figure out what are the types of stories for your topic that you think will resonate with the people you want to serve. And you won't get it the first time around. That's why you want to brain dump a couple of ideas. Number 2, what are the 2 to 3 lessons that I want my audience to retain from this presentation? What are some learning, some quick wins, some action steps that they can take to make their lives better through your ideas? Brainstorm a couple of them. Boom, 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 boom. And then finally, number 3, how can I refine my key idea and my key outcome to best serve my audience? So when I started, it wasn't convince my audience to master communication, it was to teach them information. And that key outcome ended up being wrong because every time I would teach you all of these tricks, you would just look at me and go, well, Brendan, that's easy for you to say because you're a good speaker. And I would always go back to the drawing board and say, well, you can be a great speaker too. So how can I put myself lower? Like, how can I put myself at the same level of my audience and say, what are they struggling with? How can I explain my ideas in a way that is so simple that a 5-year-old could understand it? And it's not something I got the first couple of times. It took me a long time to refine my craft to this level. So I encourage you to do the same. And finally, number 3, which is sorting and feedback. Look, there's no perfect presentation. I know that's what you came to this video for, but the truth of the matter is the best speakers on the planet are constantly refining their presentations. You need to be willing to redo your presentation a lot of times. I've personally presented my keynote 300-400 times now as of this recording. So the first couple of times, trust me, it wasn't that good. I would just look at the crowd and go, hey, look at me, I'm Brendan. They'd be like, okay, buddy, we didn't learn anything about communication, so can you try again? And it was through sorting, right? Sorting through the different stories, sorting through the different ideas, and sorting through the different outcomes that we want our audience to remember, that we're able to figure out, oh, for this idea, oh, this is the right story for that. And it's through those conversations that we have with our audience that we're able to figure that part out. Remember, everyone, you could listen to me all day you want, but the truth of the matter is that your audience is the single source of truth. They are the people that tell you whether or not your idea is worth sharing. So if nobody comes up to me and says, oh, these videos are pretty good, it means they're bad. It means I need to keep working on it. It means I need to be more enthusiastic and a lot more simpler with the way that I communicate my knowledge. And that's not an overnight process, but a process you will gain over time. That's why the biggest piece here is you need to focus on one singular idea. Notice through this video how difficult it is to dive into the psychology of your audience, to understand who they are, what their dreams are, what their aspirations are. So if you have 7 different ideas, it's going to be very difficult for you to go deep on any of them. That's why people like Tony Robbins, people like Brene Brown, Gary Vee, and all of these incredible speakers, they only speak on a very small amount of topics because they want to be number 1 in those topics and make a difference in the world. So I encourage you to do the same. Remember, as Klaus Kinski said, you don't need a framework. You need a painting, not a frame. That is the key. Klaus is so right. Why are so many of us focused on the frame of a painting? It doesn't matter. What matters is focusing on the harder thing, which is the painting itself. Going through the hard work of getting feedback from your peers, having dinner conversations with the people you want to serve, that is the true framework. That is the true way to master the art of communication and public speaking. So I encourage you all today to pick up a brush and to start painting, whatever that painting may be for you. As always, if you enjoyed this week's episode of MasterTalk, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well to see more videos like this. And if you know anyone who's having so much trouble organizing their talk, they're kind of like, oh my God, what do I need to do? I need a framework. Send them this video so that they'll be one step closer to realizing there isn't one. See you next time, everyone. Take care.